The next thing we're going to talk about that's a very easy but effective look to do in the film and TV world, as well as in print media, you see this quite frequent as well, is a sweat effect. You do see this quite frequent in fitness magazines, in an ad that you would do for a shoe company or an athletic company, but also think of film and TV world. You could see a fight scene, you could see somebody just running around working out. In many different realms you can use this. Now it's very easy effect to get, and there are a couple different levels. Now imagine too, the same as any other makeup we've been doing, determining how long the person has been sweating for and how much sweat they're producing will give you the best effect. So at the base level, the same product that we used and I put under Rosie's eye to make it look like she was crying, the glycerin base that I was talking about, we're going to use that exact same thing to give the illusion of real sweat. Now, you can simply add and dab a bit of real sweat effect onto the face to give the illusion. However, imagine that they've been working out, they're fighting really hard, something, the face gets a bit of redness to it as well. So to add an extra layer of realism to it, what I'm going to do before I add the glycerin sweat in is I'm going to add a little bit of redness to her face in key areas. Working again from my alcohol activated palette, and I'm using one of our tiny little sponges as well, where I'm going to go ahead and take a little bit of a dab in an imperfect area is right on the cheeks. The cheeks tend to get really red as opposed to anywhere else when you work out. So adding a bit of a flush to the cheeks, a little bit around the nose as well. Already gives the illusion that the blood has rushed more to the surface of the skin. And it will definitely aid us in giving this effect that we're looking for. You can also do a little bit on the chin here. Now remember too, depending on the character and what they're going to be wearing wardrobe-wise, if she were to be wearing something like this, we would want to continue to look down onto the chest. Leaving it just at the face kind of takes away from the realism of the look. So imagine she's been working out, she just came home from a run, something of the sort. We would continue this down onto the chest area and make sure that there is still some redness here to balance out with the rest of the face. It is important to note too that I'm not using straight red for this. I'm using a mauve color. There's a bit of pink, there's a bit of red, something that's going to give you a natural flush. If you do straight red onto the skin, it looks too fake. It looks too forced, as if it's the color, because also the skin doesn't look straight red when it gets red. Even though we call it red, you know that the skin has different undertones to it. It has different warmths and variations to it. So straight red is never going to be the best bet to give you the effect you want. You need a balance of pink and red and neutral tone to balance it. Using the ripped up sponge gives you the muddling effect as well, so you're able to actually get a more realistic finish to it as opposed to just painting straight forward onto the skin. And just slowly layer and build it up till you get to the level that you like. Hitting the sides of the cheek, right on the chin a little bit, and then we're going to go a bit kind of on these high points of the forehead. Again, you don't want it to be everywhere. The skin does not get red like that everywhere. So just focusing on key areas is going to give you the most realistic outcome. And just slightly tap around until you get to the point where you like it. You can also, for an added effect, take your brush with a similar tone, and you can very lightly paint a bit on the outside of the lip just to give the illusion of, again, a little bit more blood rushing to the surface of the skin post-workout. Now that you have the painting done, I like to use a brush like this one for this method. This is considered a dual fiber brush where it has natural fiber and synthetic fiber. it moves around fairly freely, and you get a little bit more of an imperfect bounce to the skin with the product as opposed to just painting flat with a brush. Now in this cup, this is that glycerin-based artificial tear and perspiration that we're using. But please know, you can also just go to the drugstore and buy pure glycerin. Pure glycerin will do the exact same effect as this. However, these cosmetic grade ones that you can purchase tend to last a bit longer than the pure glycerin. They are formulated with a few other things that stabilize it a bit more, but pure glycerin will work in a pinch easily enough. So taking a tiny little bit of this, get a nice even application on the tip of the brush, and you want to think about where the skin sweats. So think about when it's really hot outside. I don't know about you guys where you live, but here in New York City, the humidity is very high, so we walk outside and we sweat immediately. So for us, there's a lot of sweat around the hairline. You can drop it down slightly, but focus the majority of it around the hairline of the head. Remember too, the most sweat that you will see will be on the hairline. The body loses heat through the head, so that's where a lot of the heat is going to go out from. And as always, just layer, thin layer by thin layer, and build up to the effect you want, as it's always easier to add to than to take away. Now that you have a bit on that area, where you want to go is lightly on the center of the cheeks, a bit on the top of the lip area. You can do a tiny little bit at the chin, and then if you've continued all the way down, get a little bit of a tap here. And again, imperfect tapping. We're placing it in a specific area, but we're not just slapping it around. We're not just painting it. It's going lightly. You want it to look like beads of sweat as opposed to one sheet flat of color or of glisten here. So giving these little taps with this brush gives you that kind of droplet effect onto the skin, which mimics real sweat. Depending on the level of sweat too, you can also take it slightly up onto the sides of the neck, but making sure that there is some focus on the areas that you've painted. Again, it's not going to always be full-blown dripping all the way down, but there will be some specific areas. Now you see here, we have a fairly natural version of sweat, as if she was perspiring and she was outside for a bit. If we wanted it to be a lot more and she was meant to be completely drenched in sweat, what you would want to do first is take a castor oil, which is a very heavy oil base and very gentle and safe for the skin. You can take castor oil before you use this glycerin, and you can put it lightly all over the body. That will give a immediate glisten to the skin everywhere, so it looks like everything has been glowing. Then you can use this glycerin base to really tap on specific droplets, so you still get the illusion of a real droplet of sweat.